Hey, sweet people. I want you to see I hung up the crochet. Probably looks kind of crazy there. When I get my shells, down here my little squirrels, they're all here, hither and yon. They're all laying down taking a nap. I put them to bed last night. Sawyer and, oh gosh, I'm forgetting my names. Sawyer is this one. What did we name this one? I forgot. Here's Rocky and Nutty Buddy. And Chipper is the one, my candle holder. That's Sammy. Good grief, y'all. What did we name this little one that Michelle gave me? Merle. Merle the squirrel. How could I forget? Anyway, there they are. Hey, sweet. Sweet, sweet, sweet. I'm going to put on old Granny. I'm sorry, y'all, about last night. I got the whole blame chapter read, and I could not get it uploaded. The only thing that happened in 15 that you missed was sort of a big thing. It was that folks were out in boats and stuff looking for Tom and Joe and Huck, thinking they had drowned. And so the boys were all kind of excited about that. They said, this was the last little bit of 15. Boys, I know who's drowned, because they figured they were looking for somebody drowned. It's us. They felt like heroes in an instant. Here was a gorgeous triumph. They were missed. They were mourned. Hearts were breaking on their account. Tears were being shed, accusing memories of unkindnesses to these poor lost lads. Memories of unkindnesses to these poor lost lads were rising up, and unavailing regrets and remorse were being indulged. And best of all, the departed were the talk of the whole town, and the envy of all the boys. As far as this dazzling notoriety was concerned, this was fine. It was worthwhile to be a pirate after all. Remember, they were kind of getting homesick. Or maybe that was the part that we missed. As twilight drew on, the ferry boat went back to her accustomed business and the skiffs disappeared. The pirates returned to camp. They were jubilant with vanity over their new grandeur and illustrious trouble they were making. They caught fish, cooked supper, and ate it, and then fell to guessing at what the village was thinking and saying about them, and the pictures they drew of the public distress on their account were so gratifying to look upon from their point of view. But when the shadows of night closed them, and they gradually ceased to talk and sat gazing into the fire with their minds evidently wandering elsewhere. The excitement was gone now, and Tom and Joe could not keep back thoughts of certain persons at home. Maybe this is where they're getting, sort of homesick. Tom and Joe could not keep thoughts back. Enjoying the fine frolic. Wait a minute. Certain persons at home who were not enjoying this fine frolic as much as they were. Misgivings came. They grew troubled and unhappy. A sigh or two escaped unawares. By and by, Joe timidly ventured upon a roundabout feeler as to how the others might look upon a return to civilization. Not right now, but Tom withered with him with derision. Huck, being uncommitted as yet, joined in with Tom, and the waverer quickly explained, and was glad to get out of the scrape with this little taint of chicken-hearted homesickness, clinging to his garments as he could. Mutiny was effectually laid to rest for the moment. As the night deepened, Huck began to nod and presently to snore. Joe followed next. Tom lay upon his elbow, motionless for some time, watching the two intently. At last he got up cautiously on his knees and went searching among the grass and the flickering reflections flung up by the campfire. He picked up and inspected several large semi-cylinders of the thin white bark of the sycamore, and finally chose two which seemed to suit him. Then he knelt by the fire and painfully wrote something upon each of these with his red quill. It doesn't say what that is. One he rolled up and put in his jacket pocket, and the other he put in Joe's hat and removed it to a little distance from the owner. And he also put into the hat certain schoolboy treasures of almost an estimate. I can't even say it. It's like an estimate, but an estimable. Dog. Oh my gosh. Value. Among them, a lump of chalk, an India rubber ball, and an India rubber ball is a ball made from the chemically treated juice of the rubber plant. And it's a tree native to India. I've heard of India rubber balls before. 3 fish hooks and 1 of that kind of marble known as a sure-enough crystal. Then he tiptoed his way cautiously among the trees till he felt that he was out of hearing, and straightway broke into a keen run in the direction of the sandbar. Chapter 15. A few minutes, this is called Tom learns the situation, reports at camp. A few minutes later, Tom was in the shoal water of the bar, wading toward the Illinois shore. Before the depth reached his middle, he was halfway over. The current would permit no more wading now, so he struck out confidently to swim the remaining 100 yards. He swam quartering upstream, but still was swept downward rather faster than he had expected. However, he reached the shore finally and drifted along till he found a low place and drew himself out. He put his hand on his jacket pocket, found his piece of bark safe, and then struck through the woods, following the shore with streaming garments. Shortly before 10 o'clock, he came out into the open place opposite the village and saw the ferry boat lying in the shadow of the trees and high bank. Everything was quiet under the blinking stars. He crept down the bank, watching with all his eyes, slipped into the water, swam 3 or 4 strokes, and climbed into the skiff that did yawl, Y-A-W-L, duty at the boat's stern. He laid himself down under the thwarts and waited, panting. Presently the cracked bell tapped, and a voice gave the order to cast off. A minute or 2 later, the skiff's head was standing high up against the boat's swell, and the voyage was begun. Tom felt happy in his success, for he knew it was the boat's last trip for the night. At the end of a long 12 or 15 minutes, the wheel stopped, and Tom slipped overboard and swam ashore in the dusk, landing 50 yards downstream out of danger of possible stragglers. He flew along unfrequented alleys and shortly found himself at his aunt's back fence. He climbed over, approached the L, and looked in the sitting room, for a light was burning there. There sat Aunt Polly, Sid, Mary, and Joe Harper's mother, grouped together talking. They were by the bed, and the bed was between them and the door. Tom went to the door and began to softly lift the latch, and then he pressed gently, and the door yielded a crack. He continued pushing cautiously and quaking every time it creaked till he judged he might squeeze through on his knees. So he put his head through and began warily. "What makes the candle blow so?" said Aunt Polly. Tom hurried up. "Why, that door's open, I believe." "Why, of course it is. No end of strange things now. Go long and shut it, Sid." Tom disappeared under the bed just in time. He lay and breathed himself for a time, and then crept to where he could almost touch his aunt's foot. But as I was saying, said Aunt Polly, he weren't bad, so to say, only mischievous, only just giddy, and scare him, you know. He weren't any more responsible than a colt. He never meant any harm. He was the best-hearted boy that ever was. She began to cry. It was just so with my Joe, always full of the devilment and up to every kind of mischief, but he was just as unselfish and kind as could be. And laws bless me to think I went and whipped him for taking that cream, never once recollecting that I throwed it out myself because it was sour, and never to see him again in this world. Never, never, never. Poor abused boy. And Miss Harper sobbed as if her heart would break. I hope Tom's better off where he is, said Sid, but if he'd been better in some ways, Sid. Tom felt the glare of the old lady's eye, though he could not see it. Not a word against my Tom, now that he's gone. God'll take care of him. Never you trouble yourself, sir. Oh, Miss Harper, I don't know how to give him up. I don't know how to give him up. He was such a comfort to me, although he tormented my old heart out of me most. The Lord giveth, and the Lord hath taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. But it's so hard. Oh, it's so hard. Only last Saturday, my Joe busted a firecracker right under my nose, and I knocked him sprawling. Little did I know then how soon. Oh, if he was to ever do it again, I'd hug him and bless him for it. Yes, 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 I know just how you feel, Miss Harper. I know just exactly how you feel. No longer ago than yesterday noon, my Tom took and filled the cat full of painkiller. And I did think the creature would tear the house down, and God forgive me, I cracked Tom's head with my thimble, poor boy. Poor dead boy, but he's out of his troubles now. And the last words I ever heard him say was to reproach, but this memory was too much for the old lady, and she broke entirely down. Tom was snuffling now himself, and more in pity of himself than anybody else. He could hear Mary crying and putting in a kindly word for him from time to time. He began to have a nobler opinion of himself than ever before. Still, he was significantly touched by his aunt's grief. Aunt's grief. Too long to rush out from under the bed and overwhelm her with joy. And the theatrical gorgeousness of the thing appealed strongly to his nature, too, but he resisted and lay still. He went on listening and gathered by odds and ends that it was conjectured at first that the boys had gotten drowned while taking a swim. I have to stop at 15 minutes, y'all, or I'll never get it on, but I'll come back later. Then the small raft had been missed. Next, certain boys said the missing lads had promised that the village should hear something soon. The wise heads had put this and that together and decided that the lads had gone off on that raft and would turn up in the next town below presently. But toward noon, the raft had been found lodged against the Missouri shore, some 5 or 6 miles below the village, and then hope perished. They must be drowned. Else hunger would have driven them home by nightfall, if not sooner. It was believed that the search for the bodies had been a fruitless effort merely because the drowning must have occurred in mid-channel, since the boys, being good swimmers, would otherwise have escaped to shore. This was Wednesday night. If the bodies continued missing until Sunday, all hope would be given over, and the funerals would be preached on that morning. Tom shuddered. And I must stop right there, but I'll upload this and I'll come right back, I hope.